It is here. Finally here. I know a lot of you dudes have been waiting patiently, perhaps impatiently, for a long time for me to come out with this next part in my Without Rule of Law series. Well, it's happening right now. Right here in the warehouse. King Tiger right there. Zippo right there. Lance Trailer in the background. Forming what I call the best production values anywhere in YouTube. Probably the world. Don't mean to brag. Not really. Production values are very basic. Basic. But the story, the message is tight. That's where you'll find interest. And it's always been that way in all the TMP videos. It doesn't really matter what I put on screen because I have a lot to say. And I think in a lot of ways, although highly imperfect, it's meaningful. So welcome aboard. Glad to have you. Lieutenant Colonel Nut and Fancy, retired, at your service. Thank you so much for your kind support through all the years. I really mean that. For your loyalty through all the years. I really mean that. Very humbled that I'm still doing this. I really am. I feel like that God enables me to do this, and I'm very grateful for it. So special thanks goes out to the paying TMP Patreon members. They have formed the core of this project for over 10 years now. They're responsible for all the content you see. So maybe consider becoming one. And on we go with a full deck of information about what I will call without rule of law safety patrols. You might call these tactical patrols, defensive patrols, but it's actually a safety patrol because that is what we're trying to do in our given boundary system. The last video I posted in this series was called Without Rule of Law Rules. I believe that was posted in 2020, maybe 2019, something like that. It got a very good response. I alluded that sometime in the future now that I would give you more of my thinking, and that's all it is. It's just my thinking on the subject. I think in a lot of ways, this will be another touchstone video for some of you dudes out there. I think that everything that you have spent throughout the years, acquired throughout the years in terms of preparation, self-defense, tactical systems, really leads you to what we're going to talk about now. And that is preserving rule of law in your micro community. Now that term I introduced in the last video 5 years ago, MC, micro community. That's basically where your neighbors, whatever constitutes your boundary where you live, they get together and they decide what your micro community is about, your mores, your standards, and what I called community protection standards or CPS. That was an acronym I introduced at that other video. Don't blow this off. This is very important and it's foundational to what we're going to discuss here. And I do want to go over some other foundation principles before I get into the meat and potatoes of the without rule of law patrols. So I'm going to be talking about weapons, LBE, weapons choice, ammo loadout, manning, personnel situations, Overwatch, precision rifles, shotgunning, drone defense, and other stuff. I hope to make it one part. I think that's going to be very, very difficult. But again, when I start cranking, the time will go quick. Most guys don't even put it on 1 1/4 speed because there's a lot of information here. So again, those terms, micro community, very important. Community protection standards, very important. Let me just shorthand it really quick. What we're talking about, if you're completely new to the project, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, subscribe to my B channel, my Rumble feed, Nut and Fancy and Rumble. My B channel is The Nut and Fancy Project, or LTCOL, Nut and Fancy, in YouTube. Subscribe there. All non-gun content goes there. But what we're talking about is that society has basically collapsed. We do not have emergency medical services, probably fuel, probably electricity, probably food on the shelves. Transportation systems are shut down. Cars aren't running. And, it's bad things start to happen. You've seen a lot of movies that address this, and some maybe overplay it. I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds with exactly all the scenarios that could play out. Suffice it to say that you're on your own. Okay, you're on your own. And what I said in the previous video, without rule of law rules, and actually in every WROL video I've ever created, and by the way, that is a TMP acronym. It's my acronym. I came up with it in like 2008 or something, a long time ago. I see it in other places, and I'm glad for that, but it originated here in the project. What we are trying to do, and this is our focus, is we're trying to reestablish rule of law again. Because this is where we want to be. We want to be where we are right now. Probably when you're watching this video, rule of law. We don't have to worry about bad guys coming to our front door, kicking it in, shooting us, things getting stolen from us, usually, depending on where you live. Food on the shelves, gasoline at the gas stations. You get the picture. We want to restore that. What we are addressing in these videos is that interim period when rule of law, without rule of law, ensues, maybe a natural disaster. That has happened to many TMPers already. Economic collapse, widespread war, civil war, all kinds of reasons that it could happen. How do we, and we're going to focus up in this video, how do we ensure the safety of, and I'm just going to call it our neighborhood, but it may not be a neighborhood. How do we ensure the safety of it? So that's the title of this video, without rule of law, safety patrols. I might use safety or some other title, but more or less I'll do that. Couple foundational principles. This is my way of thinking. It's not gospel. I could be wrong on some issues. It's highly variable. It's all subject to change. Your situation, your way of thinking may be completely different than mine. What this video is designed to do is to get you thinking. And I find, being a jet pilot, lots of hours, that if you can kind of look ahead, you're always thinking ahead, what's going to happen? What are my threats? How can I mitigate threats? You're going to perform so much better. That's what this video is about, is you want to think, plan, strategize, and you'll find that if and when this kicks off, and I shouldn't say if, it will. The question is, how big of a scenario are you going to have to deal with and without rule of law that I will have to deal with? I think in our lifetimes, as I've always said, you will see it. How are you going to deal with it? But not gospel, highly variable. Your situation can be completely different. Some people may be deep in the city. Some may be in the suburbs. Some may be in rural locations. Very, very, very variable. Everything changes too. Like 5 years ago when I posted my first video, it seemed like a calmer time in society. And even though I was very much saying that without rule of law is coming, in a lot of ways, I feel like we're closer to it. I know the political situation, if you're a conservative, I'm not going to get into that, is better these days, but all that could turn on a dime and then it's gone. It's gone. Now, when we talk about the specifics, the meat and potatoes, as I call them, of without rule of law patrols, you got to understand that the situation I'll give you is ideal. One of the key aspects that you want to execute a safety patrol system, organization, ensuring the safety and rule of law in your micro community are bodies. You want dudes. You may be short on dudes, especially competent dudes. You may have some infirmed guys, old guys, young guys, goofballs. You're just going to have to make do with what you can get. I will paint a rosy picture pretending that I have, I'll just say 8 of you. Guys that have shot tactically some way, somehow. They've shot pistol tactically. They've thought about it. They're not caught with their pants down. So know that. I'm talking about ideal situation. In reality, expect a shit show. Unprepared people, clueless people. They don't know how to talk on a radio. They don't know how to respond to commands. They don't know how to use comms, guns, nothing. Which brings us to the next point. You're going to be their leader. At least for the security patrols, the SPs. I hate to use that acronym because in the Air Force it means security police. So let's just say security patrols is probably going to fall on you. because you're watching this video, you've done the thinking, you probably have a lot of systems, not that this is a system. I'm going to show you a couple. It's probably going to fall on you, but expect a shortage of personnel, expect a shortage of ammunition, expect a shortage of resources. But I guarantee you, once they know your background, your way of thinking, and that your level of preparation, probably the micro community is going to appoint you as the leader of the security patrols. Get ready. Everything we're going to do out there, we're not lone wolfing it, and I've been very big on this. I don't like the lone wolf concept. Worst case, yes, excuse me, you could be the lone wolf. In other words, you have just you. Because of your situation, it's just you. You're at a huge disadvantage. You can get owned very quickly, destroyed very quickly, overwhelmed very quickly. Teamwork makes the dream work. More importantly, I always believe in rule of law. And absorb what I'm going to tell you. Even without rule of law, I want to have rule of law, ROL, in everything I do. If I have to take a shot, if I have to take a defensive decision, time critical, I want it to be governed by rules of engagement established by the community protection standards that has formed. Now, don't think that a micro community has to be this big organization of hundreds of people. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It might be just 12 people total, but one's going to be the leader. They'll break down other jobs within the micro community. Security director would be one of them. But everyone's going to meet together and they're going to decide, how do we defend the community? To what level do we defend the community? That kind of thing. You need to have a serious conversation. These need to be written down. They need to become the bylaws and the CPS for your community. Big believer in rule of law. And so absorb that. Run with it. And that alone will help you immensely if something kicks off in your neighborhood. Say, listen, I know things are wacky. I know our government is not functioning. We're at war, whatever, Yellowstone erupted. Everyone take a deep breath. We'll get through this. We'll establish rule of law again. Everything will be okay, but we got to get to that point, and this is how we're going to do it. Again, you're going to be the leader. Another foundational principle is be in the best shape you can possibly be in. And I'm not saying that you need to be like a Navy SEAL or a special ops guy, but you need to be able to walk long distances, run if possible, carry heavy loads. What I've modeled imperfectly, I might add, in the Nut and Fancy project for quite some time, 19 years to be exact. I've done all types of run and gun situations, Red Skies multiple times, Soldier Boy multiple times running. My knee's giving out now, so who knows what the future holds. But try to stay in shape. Try to keep your body weight in check. I know as we get older, it's harder, but I'm just telling you, it's very important because this is where it's going to really come into play. For you to be a viable, functioning member of your security team, you want to be able to hike, walk long distances, run if possible, and be a contributing member. You don't want to have to just stay at the command post, run the radios. There are other functions that you can do if you're disabled. Trust me, there are valuable functions. But for you young kid out there, prep up, dude. So have some type of plan to stay in shape, more or less. This foundational principle, what I'm going to talk about is kind of a broad stroke. It's a summary. I can't get too deep into weapon systems, this, that, optics. I'm going to try to resist the temptation to do so. I'm a gear reviewer primarily, so it is my natural inclination to go down that road, but I'll try not to. Again, highly variable. Your situation can be different. Your weapon choices could be totally different. And that's it. That's for your foundational principles. So here we go. Meat and potatoes. That's done. I wish I had time to talk about fun, stuff like this. I really don't have time. We need to just dig into the stuff we're talking about. Okay, so let's set the stage. Without rule of law has ensued, a micro community has established. Let's say it's amazing, and that in 1 week they have functionaries in every aspect. And let's say your micro community, this is very optimistic, but let's say it's 100 members, okay? And this could include the boundaries of a neighborhood in suburbia. It could include a wide expanse of rural property somewhere. It could include an apartment complex. But they have agreed that it is probable that some people might come into that boundary that you have set to take resources, to do violence, to unalive people. And you've decided that, hey, good feelings is not going to protect us. Negotiation is not going to protect us. And you have convinced them, probably you, again, that violence is a universal language. So people who say violence serves no purpose, they have no idea what the hell they're talking about. Violence does serve a purpose, but what we do in the project is we have a very strong God-based moral system guiding if and when we implement it. And it's regretfully done so, but we've exhausted all alternatives and we have to go down that road. Again, I think a lot of you dudes are excited for this video because this is kind of a culmination of all the work you've put in for your systems. And you're like, finally, dude, this is it. I hope I deliver, by the way. I hope I do. Okay, so 100-member micro community. They've established community protection standards. They've established a rule of engagement set of priorities. If and when you use lethal force, how is less than lethal force implemented, all that stuff. How are you going to execute this? That's what this video is about. And why are we going to execute this? Again, it's to ensure safety, the S word, safety of the members in your micro community. That's what your security patrol does. It's just like a police force in a regular city. Why are they there? To ensure the safety and well-being of their citizens. It's no different. There's a reason human beings, we congregate and we make communities. It's that way we can work share, that all of us don't have to do everything. We have to protect ourselves. We have to create our own food. We have to build things. It's just so much. It's much better if you have a community and you start work sharing. Hey, you do this, you do that, I'll do this. And everybody is a lot happier and they can just kind of relax a little bit instead of having so much on their plate. That's another disadvantage to not having members in your MC, or if it's just you or a few members. And hopefully that won't happen to you. And the main reason we're doing the safety patrols is to prevent violence. Now, someone who doesn't know how you and I think, they would go, oh, they're talking tactical gears, it's AR-15 guys, they're violent. No, we're not. We're exactly the opposite. We're the good guys. We're the peace-loving guys. We're doing everything in our power not to be violent. They just show their ignorance of the entire situation of everything. And there's a lot on the left that do that. They just don't know anything about this, and they don't want to know. They're just like, nope. We're trying to prevent violence. And that may seem like an oxymoron kind of, because we're racked up, carrying AR-15, loaded for bear in some situations. It looks like we're prepared for violence, which is true. We are prepared for violence, but that is preventing violence. Do you get me? A show of force in some situations, not all. A show of force in some situations may de-escalate things. And I have made mention of this in many reviews, different, videos I've done over the years. It's a situation where maybe an 8-member bad guy team shows up in your boundaries. They see what's going on. They see you have organized patrols. Guys that seem like they know what the hell they're doing. If I was them, if I was just seeking, the least amount of hassle and stealing resources, I would go somewhere else. I wouldn't try to hurt anybody there. It's just not worth my time. It's not worth my life because I could die in the process. So we prevent violence. Okay, so purpose is crystal clear. We're going to prevent violence by being ready for violence. Okay? Now, the meat and potatoes of the patrol, the security patrol, how often do we do it? Well, think of it this way. Let's say, just for simplicity's sake, let's just say, I was going to draw up some graphics, but you guys get it. Let's just say our boundaries are perfect. They're like, it's a square. And let's say it's a 1 mile square and we have to protect everything in that 1 mile square. we want to have, this is my way of thinking, again, I believe the conversation below will be excellent. Be cool. Don't soapbox. Soapboxing is when a guy goes on and on and on. Make your own fucking video if you feel that strongly about it. You should have done it 5 years ago. So don't soapbox. Drop a couple comments. Be on your way. But I think there will be a lot of good comments here and stuff I missed. We want to have a patrol presence where anyone thinking about coming into that boundary, that micro community, can see it. They can feel it. And they can know, whoa, these people are organized. They know what's going on. Let's weigh our options. And by the way, don't think just because, I did allude to it, but don't think just because you have dudes, 2 guys, AR-15s, Glocks, tack gear, body armor, don't think there wouldn't be some people that willing to challenge you. Don't think that. Actually assume the worst. And they may be geared up better than you. They may be trained better than you. They may be more committed than you. That's the sad reality. There's a lot of bad guys out there, or people who are currently good guys that turn into bad guys under these circumstances. They kind of know what's going on, and they would be very, very formidable foes. Put that in your hopper and just shake it around a while. But back to patrols frequency. We want a 24/7, 365 presence. However, don't make your patrols predictable. Because if they're predictable, like 45 past the hour, there's going to be 4 guys walking in front of this one building, because then they can just put a precision rifle 300 yards away and take them out. You want to be somewhat unpredictable how you execute patrols. Okay? But you can use vehicles, but without rule of law, I think fuel will be very sparse and probably needed for cooking and other purposes. I doubt very seriously you'll be able to run your Suburban, your bulletproof Suburban with an M134 on top. It would be nice. I would like it. There are situations, dudes have prepared enough of like diesel fuel or biofuels of some sort. They could do that. Other things come into play, like vehicular noise draws people's attention, especially when it's quiet out there. Electric generators draw people's attention, and you might be drawing more people to your MC that you don't want to come there. Let's assume you're on foot. Okay, back to being in shape. So 24/7, 365, that means you're going to have dudes patrolling at night, in the afternoon, in the morning. There's always someone on the fence, on the wire, watching what's going on. Manning. How do we do the manning on this Nothing Fancy? Again, not the expert, but here's how I would approach it. Let's say, for whatever reason, we have a 100-member micro council, but when we eliminate people who are infirmed, handicapped, injured, they can't really do it, or they're just incapable, they say they don't want to, I can never pull a trigger. No, it doesn't matter what the situation. Let's say after all that, we peel it down to 8 dudes. Hopefully you have more. The more, the merrier to a point. In other words, I would much rather have 20 guys to draw from, because then it's just like a work shift. So we have, let's say, 4 guys patrolling at any given time. They're in pairs, by the way. 4 guys patrolling at any given time, checking the wire. Other guys are in the rest cycle, okay, and they have a day off. And maybe they're doing other functions for the micro community. If you have fewer members, that workload of patrolling is going to go to fewer bodies. Guys are going to get worn out. And that's a downside. You might have a discussion in the MC about, hey, are our boundaries too big for the amount of people we have to protect it? Maybe shrink it down. Maybe become allies with another community, which it sounds kind of tribal, really, when like, oh, we got a community here, we got a community here. Basically, what we're doing is cauterizing damage. It's kind of like a sub when it has a breached compartment. They're going to close a watertight door. That one floods. It's gone. It might be a community next to you, adjacent to you. It's gone. And what we're trying to do is just preserve what we have, so we don't have violence, fires, destruction, rapes, all that stuff going on in our community. Hence the security patrols. So I did mention 2-man crews. This is what I would like. I don't like the idea of you going out alone. It's bad juju. Again, teamwork is important. It's an important aspect of our security patrols. Also, think about how you walk together. I don't know if I'd walk side by side. I'd be probably a street across. Because if someone is trying to take one of you out long range with a precision rifle, even a sapper or something, one guy goes down, another one survives. It's going to be a very hard situation for him to get both of you if you're separated by 30 yards. Just a thought. But patrolling means patrolling. You're watching, you're listening, you're paying attention to what's going on. What changes have occurred around our micro community? That's what a patrol does. They're trying, again, to look ahead, stave off problems, and funnel resources to those problems if and when it happens. It would be walking the wire. You're patrolling. You are a guard. And that's what you do. And you're ready to respond with, according to the rules of engagement of your MC, lethal force if necessary. Regrettable, but the alternative, as I've discussed, as you know, is much worse. And that means innocent people within your MC getting hurt or worse. Pause right there. And I did say to know what's going on, changes that have occurred around your micro community. Another group that you should have, and it's not really the security patrol guys, is intel. The intelligence group, their job, and it could be just two dudes, their job is to send out scouts and to find out what's going on around you, to, again, identify threats before they come into the border. So a two-man scout team might go out after dark with night vision, thermals. They're not out there to play G.I. Joe. They're not out there to engage. All they're trying to do is assess and gather information and bring it back to the micro community council. And more importantly, if it's time critical, especially for the security of the people in that boundary, to your security patrol and disseminate that information. That's what the intel and the scouts should do. And it's an ongoing process, again, 24/7, 365. Again, the more people you have in the intel group, the more that the other people won't get completely exhausted. More bodies, I'm talking competent, prepared bodies, or bodies you can train up, the better. You want more. And by the way, once you're assigned to one group, doesn't mean you can't interchange. For instance, let's say you serve 4 weeks on the security patrols, you're exhausted. Hey, I'm going to go, let's say, to the cooking group. I don't think you do that, but maybe you go to the intel group. Maybe you go to the economic group or whatever other groups that you guys end up making. But intel is very important. So you're using optics scanning during daytime, not just nighttime, finding out what is taking place. Maybe, just maybe, there's some type of broadcasting going on, either on high frequency radio, shortwave radio, local radios. You can use electronic intelligence gathering to glean more information. That would be good. And again, keep very good records, organized records, have a way that you have all this information organized, preferably on paper, because computers, again, electricity might be in short supply. And don't undersell the importance of that intel group, because they can really force multiply the amount of dudes you have. For instance, I'm just throwing this out. So for instance, let's say intel group says, listen, from the Northwest, we have been watching. There's another group. They attacked another town to the Northwest. They caused a lot of problems. Some people didn't make it, and they're headed this way. Their mode of transportation is foot. We estimate they'll be here, if they continue to travel constantly without any stops, they'll be here within 24 hours. The amount of people they have in their group, 62. What kind of arms do they have? They have AR-15s. I believe I saw some AR-10s, some combat shotguns. These guys seem like they know what they're doing. That's kind of some good information, right? You want to be smart too, because then you can have like a feigning attack. So you concentrate to the Northwest, and lo and behold, to the Southwest is a real group. If you have military dudes, prior infantry, prior military combat dudes, use them. They'll know more about this. I don't have time to go deep into it here, but be smart. Use common sense. But maybe, just maybe, I say, hey, I know you guys are on your day off. I need I need 20 guys in the security patrols. I'm going to put 10 in the northwest quadrant. The rest of you guys are going to be securing our flanks. This is what these are the guns we're going to employ. This is the guns we have at our disposal. Two-man teams. Oh yeah, I love this. This is ideal. I don't know if you'll be able to do this, but this is how I would implement it. Remember, we have, in just this example, and again, your boundaries could go like this. It could be, I don't know, just a mile in circumference. Maybe it's many miles because of rural property. I would like an Overwatch watching my two-man teams 24/7, 365. And this guy's going to have a banger. He's going to have a sapper, AR-10. He's going to have a precision bolt-action rifle, 308 or above, preferably. 308 would work, but 300 Win Mag would be better. 338 Lapua would be better. 50 BMG would be even better. Your Overwatch guy needs to know what the hell's going on. He might be one of your better guys. He should have done a lot of shooting. He should have good common sense, good tactical sense. And his job is, again, a force multiplier. Think U.S. Navy SEALs, kind of like that. Again, perfect scenario is that something cooks off. We have a two-man team. Let's just say different. It's on the east quadrant. They were not prepared for it. They did not know it's coming. So they're under attack. And let's say one of them goes down. He's injured. Now you have one dude alone. Overwatch on the high hopefully has a clear, unobstructed sight line to that. And he can provide covering fire. He can provide not just covering, but directed fire to change the situation. Again, the stuff I've talked about, reviewed in the past, is a good part of that. Here's a sapper right here. POF Rogue. This thing is badass. This is a lightweight AR-10. This is what we're talking about. Would this serve the purpose of Overwatch? Totally. Is it accurate enough? Yes. Any accurate AR-10 will work. My preference is a semi-auto, but a bolt-action rifle could work too, but it needs to be magazine fed. I think blind magazine or top fed, kind of hokey in that situation. Your situation could have trees in the way, tall buildings, and so Overwatch over all four quadrants is not possible. This is obvious. It's up to you to determine if an Overwatch is feasible and how you would implement it. Maybe it travels with the two-man teams, but he's shadowing back about 100 yards. And so he will jump to this location, leapfrog over to that location. So it's basically 4 locations, and the whole time he's overwatching. This is all planned. It's pre-briefed in high detail. All team members know exactly how it's going to work under perfect situations. Remember, in the fog of war, when the shooting starts, even the best laid plans go to shit. But you need to start with a plan. Knowing if I'm on a two-man team and I have an Overwatch watching after me, cool. Also, and I've been talking about patrols. One thing I want to address is, see how we're doing time-wise, is entrance and exit from your micro community. It's going to have to happen. You're going to have a way that people can come and go. Maybe you implement bartering with other micro communities, trade. You have to have, again, the direction of your micro community of how that's going to take place, but have a checkpoint. And on that checkpoint, I would like 3 guys with an Overwatch. So one guy would be back, preferably behind sandbags, just like you saw in the desert, and maybe 2 other dudes conducting checks of the people trying to come into the micro community. And let me just interject real quick. We're not confrontational. We're not acting like, oh man, I'm so glad I get to be tactical and badass. That is absolutely not how we're doing this. We're actually being quite polite, very agreeable, but firm. And if someone doesn't meet your qualifications to come into your micro community, you just don't go to the banger and start taking care of business. You do what you can to negotiate. But if it's something that the 3-man team decides is not coming in, then it's not coming in. And you need to go down the force escalation, matrix to decide how you're going to respond to it. But knowing I had a dude up there with a sapper, an AR-10 watching me that knows what's going on, it's going to make me feel good. Because I know if these guys, let's say, 4 dudes jump out of back of an RV or something, they had gas, and then I've got like 6 versus 3, still a bad situation, and they're heavily armed, Overwatch can make a difference. So at your checkpoint, let me just get into specifics. What kind of guns would I personally employ? Again, perfect scenario. AR-15s are fine. AR-15s with a semi-automatic pistol as a backup there. I would like you to have at least level 3A body armor, preferably level 3, maybe level 4 rifle armor. However, we have to be realistic about fatigue. The heavier your system is, the quicker you're going to fatigue, especially if it's hot, humid outside. Be realistic. But level 3A will stop a 9mm easily. It'll stop 10 millimeter. It's something, and it's lightweight. And I'll show it to you right now. Here is, so this would be a good, perhaps, checkpoint system right here. This is a level 3A soft armor kitted up LBE. This one's like flipped. How old is this? This is an old Blackwater one made by Eagle Industries, I believe. I think this is like when I first started Team P, I bought this. Here's that old TAC Force horizontally oriented holster. But level 3A armor, I've got just 2 magazines in this loadout and 3 pistol magazines. That's a Canic TP9 there. Great gun. Totally set up. We're going to take a look at the backside of this here in a minute, but this is what I want you to remember. This is the kind of setup you would be wearing for a checkpoint, maybe a security patrol. And the only thing I don't like about this for security patrol is I want more than 2 magazines. I want minimum of 3, preferably 6. Even on a 2-man team, and loaded. Each one's a pound. I know, that's weight. But we're in without rule of law. The only backup you have on your 2-man team is the other dude, assuming you don't have Overwatch. And assuming you don't have a QRF. We'll talk about that here in a second. So 6 would be ideal. Minimum of 3 for patrol, maybe like you see here. And by the way, that LBE you just saw is not specifically set up for security patrol. It's just, as you saw, labeled as emergency AR-15. And there's a lot of systems decisions you'll have to make. I would encourage you to be standardized in your systems, if at all possible, for your team members. And if you can, maybe develop a uniform of some sort so you guys look the same. That's going to be very hard to do because resources are going to be at a minimum. But maybe, just maybe, you all can be in multicam. Maybe, just maybe, you all can be in navy blue, whatever it is. Maybe you come up with some type of identifying armband that everybody on the team wears. Actually, everybody in the micro community wears. Now, this can be faked by other guys coming in, but we're just doing what we can. In standardization, I would like team members to have the same type of weapon. In other words, even though I love this Springfield XDM 10mm pistol, and 10mm is my pistol choice and always has been if SAWC is possible, I'm not going to carry this if my other team member is rocking a 9 Glock. It doesn't make sense. You want the same magazines, both for tactical carbine and also for rifle and pistol. Shotgun guy, he's his own creature, but his pistol should match the other dudes. Be common. Now, LBE does not have to be exactly standardized, but I would advocate standardization in your loadouts. Now, if guys want to rock, down on a tactical belt and carry their mags down here, that's their option. But if you decide, hey, 3 minimum pistol, 3 minimum AR-15, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. Try to standardize. Placement of the IFAK, just like the military, should be standardized. Where's your individual first aid kit? It should be on its own thing. Speaking of which, and I'll come right back to patrols. I know you guys like the gun stuff. You should have a medical dude on alert at all times. And that's his job. He should not be part of the security patrols. He should not be part of the gate watch. He should not be Overwatch. His job is to take care of people who are hurt, and not just the team members, but the entire community. He is the medical person for the whole community. He is to be protected at all costs. You might have several. You might get lucky. Maybe you have 2 doctors. Maybe you just have 1 veterinarian. Guess what? He's a medical professional. Maybe you have a former Navy corpsman. He's a medical professional. You might be tempted to put him on an SP. Don't do it. He's too valuable for that. However, when you have people on the wire, his job is to respond if one of you guys gets hit. He should have triage ready, heavy bleeding treatment ready, level 4+ paramedic level type kits ready. Now, pause there for a second. Again, this is ideal. For you to say, oh, well, every micro community is going to have these types of resources. I know it's not. But you have to paint a perfect picture for you to get something acceptably less. Okay, does that make sense? Because if I say, oh, well, you just need like a first aid kit from Walmart, and a guy takes an AR-15 round through his belly fat, no, you need to have a chest compress, a way to seal off a chest wound. This is stuff that needs to probably be in someone's kit. You're going to do everything in your power to save lives. And that's, again, what security patrols are all about, is saving lives, not taking lives, it's saving lives. But again, your hand may be forced, rounds may fly, and things may happen. That on-call micro-community medical person, she may or may not be a doctor, that they're going to have to answer the call. Preferably, they have some assistance as well. And they don't have to be medical people, but they need to be able to deal with blood, high pressure situations, and be able to move quickly. Okay, so if one of us gets hit, again, we can't go too deep on this, then we need to extract them. Hopefully we have someone come and take their place. That person's taken off to the med clinic and taken care of, and we do everything we can with the resources and talents we have in our MC to save his life. This brings us to QRF, going back to security patrols and gate. Now, in military lexicon, QRF is quick response force, and that's essentially what we're doing here. Quick response force would be someone in waiting. They're not necessarily doing an active patrol. They're not at the gate, but maybe it's on their day off, but they are ready to go. They have their gun loaded, their LB ready to go, their boots at the door, and if and when the call comes, they can respond very quickly to go plug the hole in the dam. That's QRF's job. So going back to the eastern incursion on our border, one guy, let's say he just gets taken out. He's killed. We have one other team member. Overwatch starts firing. Overwatch gets on his way of communication. I'll talk about that. And says, we need QRF to the east side. And then maybe, just maybe, since he's kind of the highest point, he takes control and he goes, hey, by the way, watch this flank, that flank, that flank, because this could be a decoy action. Be smart. So QRF, maybe just two dudes. They suit up and they're going. Again, you need to be able to move fast and plug holes. And maybe they'll make a difference there. Again, I think QRF will still be security patrol dudes, but they will be ready. And they're versed in the way we're going to communicate as security personnel. They know the lexicon, the lingo. They know how to, if you have radios, talk on the radios, communicate, and more importantly, function under pressure. Ideally, you might have to have some dudes that have no training, military or law enforcement training whatsoever, fill these roles, and you will have less than perfect performance out of them. You're just going to have to deal with what you deal with, bro. Yeah. Back to the specifics. So let's say you're on a 2-man security patrol. What weapons do I recommend? I think I've talked about AR-15. I think that is what most of you guys have, and I think you'll be good to implement that. The AR-15 is a great system. It's awesome. I don't know what the future holds for the politics in this country about banning AR-15s, but they could pass a law tomorrow that says all AR-15s are illegal. And when this is my prediction, without rule of law ensues, you're going to have millions of these guns come out of the woodwork. They'll never get all of them, so deal with that. Bad guys are definitely going to have them. Now, that being said, I love AK-based rifle systems. Big fan. I love AKs. However, in terms of standardization, probably not the best choice unless that member is going to be operating solo. But even as solo, maybe you decide, well, we don't have enough bodies for a 2-man team. We just have single dudes. Could happen. We do have a QRF, 2 dudes. Those 2 dudes have AR-15s, but wire guy has an AK. I don't like non-commonality because you might be throwing a mag to someone and you want it to be standardized. Speaking of this, when you're running your AR-15, FMJs will be fine. My preference is 75 or 77 grains for my own gun. However, a 55 FMJ will get the job done. Don't feel like you need something more. Do not, however, unless you have no other option, use steel-cased ammo. That is an absolute emergency, last-ditch thing. The reason I don't like it is, one, it has reliability problems in a lot of guns, and more importantly, well, not more importantly, equally as important, it is very low velocity and it's very dirty. So you should have a stockpile of rounds. How many to store up, nothing fancy? Well, it really depends on who you know right now, where you live, and if they could be part of what we're talking about. But I would say probably for training, 4,000 rounds, absolute minimum for your AR, minimum. That includes practice rounds. If this thing kicks off, 1,000 rounds is emergency low in my book. I know that might be relatively high. You'll see guys in the comments, they'll say, oh, dude, I have 100K. There's guys that make me look like an amateur. I'll tell you that right now. I know this. Brass case ammo, if you want to use something more exotic, make sure it functions in your gun, make sure it's accurate, and more importantly, every gun of the security patrol, Overwatch, gate guards needs to be zeroed. Do I even need to say that? Yes, I do, because every damn time someone comes out and shoots with a Nut and Fancy project, their gun is not zeroed. And these are tactical guys. Tactical guys. And out come the excuses. Oh, it's not that. Well, guess what, bro? Now your zero is going to decide whether you live or die. So if you have backup irons, those need to be zeroed. If you have a scope, that needs to be zeroed. And my recommended distance is 50 yards. You heard right, 50 yards. Overwatch, no. Overwatch, I would zero at 100 and then know all my come-ups for longer ranges and come-downs if it's closer. That's just me. That's just me. Maybe you want to approach it different. Some guys will do 25 meters. That's a good zero too. My point in saying this is I think it's much more likely in this scenario, guarding your micro community, that you would have engagements pretty close, not further away. And if you think about it, that really makes sense because we're not an offensive unit. We are a purely defensive unit. Now, if we get into combat as a security patrol, we become offensive and we operate offensively to push back the threat and basically annihilate the threat. Because if they've come into my MC, I will destroy them. It's that simple. They're done. Because they've already said, we're going to come in and we're going to use lethal force against you guys. All my unlock codes are gone and it's game on. It's game on and they're done. And I'm not kidding. They're done. But that is still a defensive action in the terms of the purpose of what I'm doing. We're not acting offensively. We're acting defensively. So with that in mind, the defensive nature of what we're doing, it kind of drives to, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. The amount of rounds we're taking on the wire with us, the types of rounds we're taking. And I was talking about long range shots too. That is not always, but usually an offensive action. In other words, I don't see Overwatch. It really depends on the borders, really, of how long your borders are. Like if you have really long borders in open country, I could see a long shot being necessary. But for most of us, I would say a shot beyond 100 yards, probably no from Overwatch. 300 yards, no. But you just know, again, it's highly variable. It depends on the situation. I believe I read somewhere that police sharpshooters, it's almost always under 100 yards, more like 50. And that's in a police action, like a SWAT team member. What we're trying to do is, again, prevent. But if it kicks off, we're ready to answer in kind. Optics for your AR-15. Okay, so let's go back to what we're talking about. So we're going to concentrate on, we're going to concentrate on the two-man security patrol. And let's say both guys, meaning you, are armed with AR-15s. This is a hodgepodge that I assembled. It's awesome. 6 pounds, 7 ounces. Is that with optic? No, that's without scope. So this is a great patrol gun, will work great. Notice I do on this particular one have BUIS, my scope of choice. I will put some links below of stuff that I recommend for you guys. My writing on that is so freaking small. It's a Vortex Strike Eagle 1 to 8. That is almost an ideal. Not almost, it is my ideal rifle, really. Does it have the most wide open field of view for those close contacts? You'll do better with a red dot, a reflex sight, I'm not going to lie. But this is something you can dial up and get precise shots. And maybe, just maybe, you have to take a precision shot with what ensues. Maybe bad guys are behind an electrical box, a telephone pole, and they're, you know, you can read into the scenarios. I don't want to talk too graphically about it. But yeah, this is a great scope. High value, works great. I've shot them for years. That's running an Aero Precision mount. AR-15. So we're talking about optics of choice. I do see a lot of TMPers gravitate towards red dots. In the application, or as I say, the philosophy of use of security patrols, I think actually, I even hate to say this, red dots is not an awful choice. It's not my choice, but it is a fairly good choice because, again, I'm thinking that the contact will come close. It's both eyes open shooting, easy breezy. The ones rocking now by Osight, Hollow Sun, Trigicon, they're excellent. They have long battery lives. They're very rugged, very tough. You guys know how it rolls. SIG also makes some great reflex sights. I'll put a couple down below that I really love. But for me, this will dial down to 1 power. And make sure I said that right. Yeah, I did. That is a 1 to 8. 1 to 8 is, to me, just really in that sweet spot because you can dial down, do close range with a 1 power. It's not quite as good as red dot, like I said. But then if you have to reach out to maybe an emergency 300 yards, don't think it's going to happen. But let's say you do, it's capable. And that 55 grain load you opted for will do just fine. Okay, iron sights. Would I recommend just iron sights? Well, necessity is the mother of invention, or necessity is the mother of implementation, I should say. If that's all you have, then that's all that you have. It worked good enough in World War II for most of the guys. Is it perfect in low light? No. At night? No. Speaking of which, would I recommend integrating thermal or night vision into your weapon systems? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a game changer. I've reviewed it. I recommend the AGM products. The Rattler systems are insanely awesome. They're high value for what you're getting. Pulsar also makes some good ones, although I haven't tested those ones. I've tested AGM Rattlers extensively, and I have not loved any of them. Yeah, if and when you can integrate thermal, I'll put links below. It's not the highest on your list, but it's a very nice capability. Speaking of which, let's take a side course real quick. If a weapon is if it's outfitted with, let's say, a pure thermal night vision scope, would I recommend patrolling at night with it? My answer is it really depends. How much lighting do you have in your area? If it's very dark, then I would say it would probably be a very smart thing to have one of your patrol members have a night vision equipped gun, if at all possible. Another option is an AGM Neath, and that is basically a night vision scope, but you will need an IR illuminator, more system complexity. Go watch my review. But it's very capable, and this is assuming your opponents don't have night vision, because if they do, and you pop on an IR illuminator, you just screamed out your location to them. Maybe don't underestimate your enemy, but also this is where intelligence comes into play. So, hey, are guys running NVs? Do they have them? Do they have nods? Have you seen them on guns? No, we haven't. Not at all. Okay, maybe that factors into our choices. Optics, so red dot's okay. I really think a 1 to 6 scope is very ideal. Again, it will get the job done for most situations. You might have one member be outfitted for longer range. Maybe he's rocking a scope like this, 1 to 8. Other guy has a red dot. That does not breach the uniformity of the team, because different capabilities, just like in the military, you might have a different capability weapon system within the group. Sorry, I'm taking drinks. Yeah, so the guy that has this gun, if and when a longer shot is necessary, he'll use his gun. The other guy's banging out close contact. Well, this guy is too, but he has more of a DMR rifle capability. And that brings us to shotgun. Ideally, and this is just me talking, if my intel, assuming I have such, and that's a big assumption, by the way, assuming that I know dudes are coming and the contact would be close, I definitely want a combat shotgun in the mix. Right now I have my old Versan. It is an outstanding gun. It's basically a license-built Beretta 1201. This is a 7+1 auto shotgun, screw and chokes, ventilated rib. It's actually a hunting shotgun, but it's damn awesome. Why did I grab this? Because this is just what I had. None of this is set up. It's just very organic. I'm not saying that every gun I'm bringing in front of the camera is the absolute best in that situation. I'm not saying that. It's just representative. Maybe have some type of way to carry extra shells. This is an elastic loop, and I don't like putting those upside down. I need the rim to catch it because elastic gets loose. So as you shoot, if it's upside down, some of you guys are like, oh, you need to turn them upside down. That's for a polymer sight saddle. But getting back to the philosophy of the shotgun, what does it do that AR-15 doesn't? Lead on target. And we're assuming like the contact is close. Nothing solves a fight like a 12 gauge, I say number 4 or double odd buck, 2 3/4 inch full power load within 25 yards. It's just a fight stopper. Even if the guys are wearing body armor, they're going to have a really bad day. Speaking of shotgun loads, what do I prefer? Well, I just said it. I like number 4 buck. Guys say, well, it doesn't penetrate as well. It can ricochet. But there's a lot of them damn pellets coming out. And if you're within a close range, probably like 10 yards, game over, dude. Double odd buck's also a good option. I would not probably use birdshot. I think that's a dumb decision to use that. Unless you know for sure the contact's going to be super close. And I'm talking like within 20 feet. Man, even then I wouldn't use it because with a semi-auto shotgun, you might have reliability problems with that low impulse recoil of that. How are we doing on time right here? I really want to make this one-parter, so can I do it? I'm trying. Hang with me. Speaking of which, I do prefer a semi-auto shotgun. It's quicker. It's easier. It's one-hand operable. Don't think I don't love pump shotguns. I love the 870. I love the Winchester 1300. FN12. One of my all-time Winchester SXP is a Winchester 1300, Turkish produced. I just love them. They're great. But running a pump action a pump action 12 gauge combat shotgun is a definite skill set. Do not underestimate this. Running any 12 gauge shotgun is a definite skill set. Hopefully you can train these guys. You have ammunition to train the guys that are going to run the gun. And preferably, ideally, this would be ideal, that the guy's a three gun competitor. If you're going to ask me who do I want on my team, I want top performing 3-gun competitors, not necessarily military guys. Because I can teach them all the military stuff about how to think, ops, tactics, all that stuff. I want a guy that can know how to run a gun under pressure. A wide variety of guns, combat pistol, combat shotgun, tactical carbine. 3-gun guys are it. And if you want to train for this, participate in 3-gun. It's expensive, very time consuming, but if you want my 2 cents, 3-gun guys are the shit. Because they're used to their systems going down. They're used to handling weapons. It's like second nature for them. So give me 20 of those guys and in shape, by the way. I don't want some 3-gun guy that can't run. I want basically, let me see. If I want to say, I want 170, let's do 185 pounds, 6 foot, in shape 3-gun guy. 28 years old. There you go. That's what I want. Yeah, I'll be their commander and I'll just put them into action. Semi-autos are where it's at for me. I like them. You have to know how to operate them. It is a skill set. The recoil is, for some people, immense. Will I use low recoil loads? And by the way, these are low recoil. Yeah, if that's what I have, and they're still quite lethal, yeah. Probably not short shells, Aguila short shells. I want max power, bro. Another advantage for, and we're going to get into drones right now, for shotgun, and I might make a video about this drone defense. Let me know if you want it. It really depends on how many views this gets. It should go nuclear. I'll be watching the views very closely. And more importantly, people who sign up to Patreon very closely. I would assume in today's environment, especially what's happened between the Ukrainian-Russian war over several years now, you will have drone activity of some kind. Will they be DJI, reconnaissance drones coming over there? Yeah, probably. Now, this is me spitballing, but my micro community standard would be that no drones are permitted to come within our borders, and they will be shot down immediately. They will be engaged immediately. Now, this is pie in the sky in a lot of ways because drones nowadays can fly very quickly. They're getting more automated. They're getting more ran by AI. So don't assume that the duck hunter in your micro community can down a drone flown by an expert or self-piloted to a high level. But a shotgun is a much better tool to shoot down a drone if it's within range of said shotgun than obviously an AR-15. Now, I've seen troops over in that conflict using their AKs trying to shoot down a drone. I'm going, what the hell? Maybe you get lucky, but I think it's generally a waste of ammunition. You'd be much better off putting in your modified choke, running, if possible, 3-inch Magnum shells, pheasant load, or goose loads. Those are meant to pattern quite tightly, go to range. With a 3-inch Magnum, when I was in high school, it was an over and under shotgun. I shot a goose, I would say it was at least 40 yards up, and I downed him with one shot. I think it was a goose, was a duck. I don't remember. I just remember me and Sonny were hunting that day, and he's like, holy cow, I cannot believe you got that thing. He fell. It takes skill to track, to lead. Do I recommend practicing with shotgun, trap, and skeet? Yes. It's fun. It's engaging. It's another hobby, but also it might translate to drone defense to a certain level. Okay, but again, you might have a drone that's not being expertly piloted. They're just coming in at slow pace, trying to sneak into your micro community, see what's there. Do they have any security patrols? Your shotgun comes out, the team sees it and they go and they just engage and boom, 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 done. That would answer their question, I guess. Yeah, I've reviewed a lot of systems along these lines, a lot of combat shotguns that I recommend. Stoeger 3000, Beretta A300, FNSLP, 940, JM Pro by Mossberg, and some others. Take your pick. Speaking of which, by the way, shotgun integration, going back to what I said, not necessarily for drone defense, but just having it with a team member, yes, I do like that. So I would have it, one dude with an AR-15. Again, it's highly dependent on the situation. Another guy with a semi-automatic or pump shotgun. And that takes us back to this rig that I'm going to show you. And this is actually, I don't know if you caught on, this is actually a dual purpose rig. It's reversible. That's how I have it set up. It does have 3A armor plates in it. And you can see 12 gauge shotgun. I'll put the link down there. I just make those name tapes in Amazon. The way I'm going to carry those shells, excuse me, is loose in a pouch. Just make sure you're good about zipping up the pouch. Always, always, always. Because when you start running, you go prone, and they're all going to dump out if it's open. I have gone to this system because it's fast. It's easy to dump shot shells in there. I don't put them in elastic loops anymore, all subject to change. So here, pouch for 12 gauge, pouch here. Understand this is heavy. 50 rounds is 82 ounces or 5.1 pounds. That's not lightweight. And this is 2 3/4 inch double odd buck. And give or take, but that's approximate. So 5 pounds of 12 gauge ammo. Don't think that 12 gauge is all that. I mentioned, and I did foot stomp it a lot, the importance of practicing and being able to run that weapon system. That's probably the biggest limfac on that gun, is most guys do not know how to run a combat shotgun. And I'm talking guys that have come out to TMP, they don't know shit about shooting combat shotgun. They are horrible. So the whole axiom, oh, just point in the general direction, you'll hit something. You won't. Officers all the time miss with their shotguns. Competitors miss all the time with their shotguns. It's not a gimme. That's the biggest thing. But also the SAWC, size and weight constraints. Ammunition is hard to load. I don't care if it's a magazine-fed system or a tube-fed system. It's hard to load. Yeah, I know we all see John Wick. That's fine. But we're not Turan. So practice, practice, practice. I'm going to get back to that. But this is how my shotgun's set up. Notice, by the way, with my shotgun setup, it's not showing anything, but I will definitely carry a pistol when I run my shotgun on security patrol, or I'll always have one on Overwatch, and I'll also have it on gate duties as well. But with a shotgun is this very important, because Murphy's Law means that something's going to happen that you weren't expecting. Maybe your shotgun goes down. You want a secondary weapon system. In my Hall of Fame combat pistol reviews, I call them GTW guns. It's a gun that I say, hey, I'd be willing to go to war with this gun. And what I'm talking about is GTW. Okay? If you haven't figured that out, that's what we're talking about. This is like where the rubber hits the road. But in that situation, I would have a longer barreled combat pistol. This is kind of ridiculous, but I do love it. It's the Glock 17L. I do highly, highly recommend this gun. They are still out there. I saw one in a gun store last week. But this has higher velocity. You feed this with plus P, it's going to hit much harder, almost to 357 Magnum velocities. And yes, I do have an old school light on there, but it's totally functioning. It's a TLR4 by Streamlight. And by the way, I do recommend weapon lights on everything. Your AR-15 should have a weapon light, which, by the way, I should have brought my other one in that modeled that. Pretend that one did. The reason when I'm running shotgun duty that I want a longer barreled gun is because I'm trying to mimic as close as I can with the limited space and weight carrying capabilities I have, the performance of a PCC, a pistol caliber carbine. And just because I have it right here for another video that's coming out, keep watching, subscribe, hit the notification bell, join Patreon as a paying donor, by the way. Is this Smith & Wesson FPC is legit. This is a great PC. Here it is folded up. There's one of those red dots, Holosun. That's a 403B in that FDE. I think that's an Optics Planet Special Edition. This is a great PCC. As a detour, very quickly, do I recommend running a patrol with a PCC? If the answer is if that's all you got, that's fine. But I don't like the idea. I don't like it. It doesn't hit hard enough. You're still running a pistol. A pistol is an emergency gun. It's my backup gun. It's not my primary. For instance, I'm talking about going to my Glock 17L in this scenario because my shotgun went down. This is functioning as an emergency piece, a backup to my primary weapon system. I think most people would agree with that. Military members would agree with that. But I'm trying to get a longer barrel, more velocity, more energy because I like things that hit hard. I want more firepower. That's why I love 10 millimeter. You know, if my bro has a 10 millimeter, then he and I are running 10s. If he has like a Glock 20, I'm like, dude, granted the different magazine systems, so never mind. But pretend we both have Glock 20s or XDM 10s, MMP 10s. I'm like, I'm down for that, bro. 10 millimeter is awesome. Have all your weapons not just zeroed, but lubed. Lubricate them. What lube should I use? Nothing fancy. I don't have it on the shelf there. Just synthetic oil. I just use like Mobil 1 5W30. It's fine. It's fine. If you want to have a more durable lube, try synthetic lithium grease. I think it's lithium. I might put a link below. That does last longer. I have used it on bolts and bolt carriers and AR-15s, charging handles. It does fine. The one thing I don't like about lithium is it doesn't wash the fouling away like a more a runny lubrication like an oil. I think your best choice in all temperature conditions is a synthetic oil like that. But again, you can buy just like 1 quart of 5W30 synthetic. I like using pure synthetic. It doesn't cost that much. It'll last a long time. Have everything lubed. Your team leader of the security patrols would make sure that all the weapons as an armor are ready to go. And applying good safety standards, of course, but make sure, hey, is he lubricated? Yes. Are there any parts that need to be replaced? Make sure your machine is ready is the bottom line. Duh. And you say this, but you'll see guys below who are competitors, who have been competitors, and they will remark about, even in competition circles, guys knowing the event was coming up and they did not prepare their gun. The gun goes down. It was completely their fault. It wasn't lubricated. They had some hokey shit on it. expect more of the same and without rule of law. I'm just trying to let you know that's going to happen. Magazines for your system. I have just a 10 rounder in this APF lower right here. It's just for display. I use this for sight in and for accuracy testing. Have a magazine system that works. I like a GI or something like it. This is an awesome magazine. This is a Duramac, but it's a GI. It's just in anodized aluminum. These are fantastic. PMags are fantastic. I love PMags. Do I have? Oh yeah, here's my AR-15 system. Oh no, that's an AR-10 system. I'll show that here in a second. I don't know if I have a loaded PMag to show you, but you get it. PMags are also good. Don't allow hokey mags into the patrols, gate, or Overwatch. And you as a team leader need to watch out for that. Do I integrate a fixed blade system into my LBE? I would say probably not unless you are confident in its use. The reason is if you get into a ground tussle, that fixed blade can be extracted from your LBE and used against you. Now, if it's hidden and if it's low profile, sure. Also, be careful how much shit you put into your LBE. You don't want to take the kitchen sink with you. You want to minimize your weight. Only essentials. Again, you're not hiking 80 miles in Afghanistan. You're just running a patrol in your micro community. You need water, probably some snacks, a lot of ammunition, body armor, lighting, comms, which takes us to that talking point. How am I doing on time? Well, not horrible. I'm going to make this a single parter because nobody watches the second part. It's not worth the effort. How do we communicate with each other? Again, this is a big subject. I'm not the expert, but hopefully you have some GMRS radios. That would be my first thing. I have a good set below that I'm using. I like them a lot. Downside is they're not encrypted. They can be intercepted with people. Your bad guys can intercept them. You could have a brevity codes and a way you guys talk to each other. Baofengs could be a good way to talk to each other. Other radio systems. FRS are highly interceptable. So are GMRS for that matter. But I would say overall, your electricity is probably limited. How are you going to refuel these radios? I have reviewed and recommended solar generators, and that is one way you could do it. They are charged with the sun, if nothing else. And that would be a way to do it. I would really, really like for all the security members to be on an electronic radio with at least a 5-mile transmission capability on it. You might put some thought into, do we really want to transmit that far? Because people can listen in. Maybe FRS or something lower power would be better. Think about it. Do something smart. So my first choice is radio communications. Again, I can't go into the subject right now, but there's a certain way to talk briefly. People need to say their message and let go of the transmission button ASAP. Most people who are not trained in radio use will blabber, ba, 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 and no one can get a word in. And meanwhile, guys are taking rounds. Like, shut the fuck up. Let go of the transmission button. In the military, you're meant to talk quickly, accurately, and get off the damn radio so other guys can pass information. That's what you're doing. You're passing information. You can use whistles for communications. That is simple. It does work. Like maybe you come up with a way to communicate. 3 beeps would mean I need help. 2 beeps could mean come here now. 1 beep could mean be alert. That basically means we're under attack, and that 1 beep happens so quickly, guys may not know where it came from. And then maybe 4 beeps, 4 loud beeps means we have an injury. Whistles are cheap, easy, everyone can have one, and everyone can remember that at least. Moreover, if you trust them, you can give whistles to non-security team members, and maybe they can function for eyes and ears for the team, and they can alert you if there's an attack that you guys did not see coming. Ideally, again, we would have encrypted radios, but again, big subject. And also you're assuming a lot out of the people that are going to be in your MC. Yeah. Mirrors, I do not recommend. I think they're stupid, at least for this purpose. Flashlights. Yes. Flashing. You could flash the same way. 3 help at night. But again, that gives away your position. Also, the enemy can mimic these, either the whistles or the flashlight, if they find out about them. There you go. But communications, that's all I'm going to say about it just for time. Yeah. By the way, I mentioned drone, defending against it, but also probably someone in your MC will have a drone. I do recommend their implementation. have the most competent person. It might be a 16-year-old kid run your drone system. They could be part of the intelligence gathering thing. Just like I said, they're going to send one to your MC. Well, you're going to send one to theirs. They're not necessarily there to do any harm. Well, not at all, actually. They're just there to gather information. But again, recharging the drone, technical proficiency in flying it, wear and tear, parts breakages, flying into buildings, braking. There's a lot to it. Drones, anytime you make your system more complex, it's more complex. And things are going to go wrong. But just be advised. I think drones are going to keep getting better and better, if not already. Some will have thermal capabilities on them. Some will be autonomously flown. What I think, and I do recommend for drones for you for security patrols, Overwatch, and gate duties, is a hybrid integration of them. In other words, you're not relying solely on drone intelligence. What you're doing is just using it to augment your situational awareness. I think that would be the best way, because you're still doing it on the ground by humans, but if you have some drones in your MC, put them to use. Put them to use. Put the banger on that control, and there you go. Now, AR-15s, I think I did cover that, the weapons, loadout, how I would do it. Myself, again, AR-15 shotgun would be ideal with our team members. Oh, I would say probably the same for gate duty. I love having a combat shotgun there at the gate. And that is probably, since it's more of a static location, we're not on foot, that's probably a location where I would use a magazine-fed shotgun. 10-round magazines, 25-round drum magazines, because you're just sitting there. In fact, you should have a mini Overwatch at your gate location. Remember the guy behind sandbags? He's your mini Overwatch, and you have another one overhead. Didn't mention that, but I'm doing it now. That guy could have a banger system, reliable, checked to be reliable, gas system adjusted properly for the load. Nothing like it, though. It's just a lead thrower. And incidentally, probably bring some slugs with you, too. I would like to have, they're heavy, four packs of slugs, so 20 rounds total. I love slugs. They're wicked. All right, dressing out. How do we dress? I've been, right here, this is just a Muse chest pouch. I'll put a link below. I use it. I've been using it today. So it's like just a utility pouch. But this could actually be your loadout for a security patrol. You do not necessarily have to go loaded for bear, full tactical implementation, AR-15s, big show of force, looking like G.I. Joe. You don't have to do that. You can actually do something lower profile. It really depends on what the situation is. And maybe that situation you're in calls for lower profile. This would be a good situation where maybe I'm just running a pistol, 2 magazines. I don't like that situation. We're in without rule of law. I want at least 3, preferably more. But you could. You could have this under a jacket. You could have concealed system, inside the waistband, outside the waistband, 4 mags on your belt. You could have like a light jacket that comes over, level 3 armor. Everything we've talked about in the project over the years, it's all coming into play here. You are the decider on what is implemented and how. But not always do you need to go to the highest level of show of force. You don't. Just use common sense. Pray about it and see what God tells you. If you do go loaded up, AR-15s, full tack gear like I've been showing you, you could be a target. There could be people from a longer range without you knowing that ends up, taking one of your guys out. So address that. How can we mitigate that? How can we walk? How do we change our patrols? What cover can we use as we're checking the perimeter of our MC? One thing I did not talk about is I showed it early on as Overwatch is an AR-10. Do I recommend an AR-10 for Overwatch? Absolutely. For gate duty? Absolutely. In fact, gate duty, I'm really kind of torn between a semi-automatic shotgun and an AR-10 for gate duty for Overwatch. Maybe the primary members too, especially when it's something lightweight like this POF. This is fairly lightweight. It weighs the same as an AR-15 for crying out loud. Yeah, they're great. However, for on-foot patrolling within your MC, I'm a little bit, this is just me, but I'm a little bit less enthusiastic about it, and here's why. It all comes down to SAWC. The reason I like it for gate duty is because that's a static location. Guys they're not planning to move that much. Here's my emergency 308 Sapper loadout. This is no kidding, coming out of stock. It's ready to rock. This is not the best holster in the world. That's an IWI 9mm Masada. Then I only have 3 magazines Each one looks like this and is loaded just like that with a polymer tipped 165 grain match load that the gun is zeroed for. And by the way, this is matching up to that Pop Rogue. So that's an emergency sapper for me. There's your beautiful magazine by Magpul. They work great. This is heavy, and this one has rifle plate in it, so it's even heavier, albeit it's a lightweight rifle plate. I didn't weigh this, but it's heavy. This is why I don't want to carry this around the perimeter on, I don't know, an 8-hour, maybe 10-hour shift of walking. It's a lot. Now, if dude is 175 pounds, 6 foot, totally in shape, and he's ripped, he'll have no problem with it. I'm getting older. I might have a problem with it. You might as well. You be the judge, though. I mean, if you want to run an AR-10, rock it. But again, commonality. Is the other dude you're with and paired with running an AR-10? Probably not. The amount of TMPers that I have seen running an AR-10 system for emergency use is approximately 0. Let me say that again. 0 people I have met that run AR-10s. There you go. Just being honest. Non-lethal. Didn't really address this, but I will now. Should we, in the quest to protect our micro community, implement less than lethal ways of handling business? I would say that's up to your micro community council. They're going to be the ones that establish your community protection standards. I can probably guarantee you they would want to use that if at all possible. If they are wise, then they would entrust the decision to their to their security team leader. He's the one that will decide if it's necessary. Because this is how it works. A micro community council is not really in charge of security. What they're telling the security dudes is like, this is what we want. We want a safe community. We don't want people hurting us, stealing from us, damaging our stuff, taking our vital resources. How you decide to do that is up to you. By the way, if it reaches lethal standards, this is the rules of engagement we would like you to implement. That's okay. But they really should not get down in the weeds and micromanage the security dude to how he does his job. That's just me. Let him do his job. Chances are your security team leader, that's you, would have some level of less than lethal force implemented. In other words, if you're just having a tuffle with a guy at the gate and he's not presenting lethal force, obviously we don't want to answer with lethal force. We want to answer in a way to just control the situation, de-escalate it, and turn him away from our borders and have him go on his merry way. It might be a situation where we're using a baton, a stun device, pepper spray, flexicuffs. You might integrate that into your system. Do I? Absolutely. And not only do I have it for without rule of law, I have it like in daily operation. On the motorcycle, I have less than lethal options. I never want to go to the gun if I don't have to go to the gun. I just want to get out of there and run away, basically. But in this situation, defending your micro community, you ain't running away. You are the cavalry. You are defending the borders. So that's how I think about that. Yeah, definitely integrate it, but don't be married to it, because if you're married to it like, oh, just less than lethal, non-lethal, you guys could get owned and probably lose some team members. Food, I didn't really talk about it. I got to wrap it up. Yeah, have snacks, make it simple. Do I want MREs when I'm patrolling? No, MREs stop you up, dude. I mean, dude, you're going to be constipated if you eat MREs. But that feeding the security teams, Overwatch, the gate patrol guys, that's not their job. There should be a whole separate organization doing that. And their job is food provisions for the security guys. And so when they head out on patrol, they should have food prepared for them. It should go in their rucks, on their LBE, or in predetermined situations and destinations where they can eat. You should have water on your person at all times, but that's not their job. The females in the micro community, or maybe males that are infirm, they can't walk, they're handicapped, they can be part of that very, very critical infrastructure of food. Other community organizations you have is energy, economics. Just look at your city. All we're doing is building a micro city and just hoping that rule of law reestablishes itself. I think I covered a lot. Let me say this, and this is really important. Remember what I called this. This is a without rule of law safety patrol. That's what it is. It's designed to prevent violence, and in doing so, usher in large-scale rule of law once again. So we're going to operate in a very temporary fashion with very established and logical and moral guidelines that when rule of law comes back and it reestablishes, if we had to take some shots, if we had to do some self-defense shoots, we are justified. And we can say, hey, this is what we had as our CPS. We applied those. This is a situation. We were shot at. They took one of our team members out. Yeah, we answered in kind, and we took 8 of them out. I'm pretty sure you'd be okay. But don't expect that when rule of law comes back that, everyone's going to forget what happened. I think everybody will probably be judged one way or another, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not really doing the morality, though, for that. I'm doing it because I want to be seen as being right in the eyes of God, in the eyes of my Father in heaven. He does not like us taking life if we don't have to take life. We want to be very reticent to do so. And again, expect this without rule of law situation to be temporary. Rule of law will establish itself. It's a matter of when. I would expect, though, in worst case, and maybe I'm off on this, I could be, probably a year of you operating as a micro community in your own, with your own provisions, your own preparations, your own weapons, your own ammunition, your own optics, your own body armor, your own night vision, drones, and all that. It's a lot. It's a lot. Now, as a parting shot, guys might ask, oh my gosh, that's so much. What do I prep for? Well, if you have an AR-15, reliable, 9mm combat pistol, reliable, LBE, fits you, set up, extra magazines, ammunition, you have a good start. I do recommend training, practice. And speaking of which, I didn't mention this, I'm glad I remembered it. Dry training is very important. And because you may not have the luxury of just shooting rounds willy-nilly in your micro community, assuming you're unsuppressed, which most of your players would probably be. Cans, by the way, are highly recommended. I do recommend your AR-15s have suppressors on them if you have them. But practice dry firing, and you can train a lot with that. Pistol firing, you can dry fire. Train up members who have no experience with guns that you want to use. AR-15, you can train dry firing. You can get, with repetitive muscle memory with dry firing, I'll just spitball and say you can get 60% there. And then if and when you can do a live fire, if you have enough ammunition, do that. There you go. Woo! Man, one part, baby! One part. I'm so excited I got it done in one part. I could go, excuse me. Oh, my throat's getting dry. I could go a lot deeper in some of these subjects, but that's a lot. It's a lot on your plate. Mull it over, think it through. The reason I'm making this video is to help you, to help people, to help and protect innocent people if and when, not if, when without rule of law kicks off. And it will come to you, Mr. TMPer, to do all this stuff I talked about. I wish you all the best. I do humbly ask you invoke God in your preparations. And if and when you become the team leader, be a good team leader. Moral, thoughtful, not quick to rile, and smart. Be smart. This is Lieutenant Colonel Nut and Fancy from the warehouse, King Tiger in the background. Wishing you all the best. That is my thought process as it stands now, subject to change on how to execute without rule of law security patrols. Thank you very much. See you in the Patreon Clubhouse. Over and out.